John Gotti, born in 1940, was an Italian original American gangster. He was godfather of the Gambino family, one of the 5 families of New York of the American mafia, and today we look at how he made it and how much money it put in his pockets.
On track, now we gon' way up. W's as easy as a layup. Working late, stay up. Counting all the way up. Counting blessings, yeah, you know we pray up.
Growing up in poverty, Gotti and his brothers become involved in New York's crime at a young age. After he exacts revenge for the kidnapping of the mafia boss's nephew, Carlo Gambino takes notice of him. Gotti swiftly rises to the position of being the Gambino family member who makes the most money. Gotti separates himself from the Gambino family after numerous team members were charged with drug trafficking. Gotti arranges Paul Castellano's assassination, which happened on December 16, 1985, to stop him and his squad from being assassinated for disobeying their boss's prohibition against drug trafficking. After this, Gotti then seizes control of the family. In fact, Gotti rises to become one of the most powerful figures in American organized crime, earning hundreds of millions of dollars through crimes like extortion, betting, usurious loans, construction, and vehicle theft. With his over-the-top demeanor and flamboyant appearance, which frequently won him public favor, Gotti then starts to draw media attention. The Bronx in New York City is where Gotti was born in 1940. His origins hail from the province of Naples, despite the fact that both of his parents were born in the United States. In a family of 13 kids, he is the 5th child. One of the 5 brothers who joined the Gambino family is John Gotti. Gotti is a poor child. His father is a sporadic day laborer with a penchant for gambling. Gotti believes as an adult that his father was unable to provide for his family in a loving manner. He has a history of pestering other kids and committing small-time offenses at school. At the age of 16, he was eventually dismissed from high school. He joined his brothers Peter and Richard in street gangs run by the New York Mafia when he was 12 years old. Early in the summer of 1954, when Gotti was just 14 years old, he attempted to steal at a construction site and had his toes crushed by a concrete mixer. He stays in the hospital for the remainder of the summer and will always be disabled. At the age of 16, he permanently quit school and joined the mafia-affiliated Fulton Rockaway Boys gang. There he met Wilfred Johnson and Angelo Ruggiero. In a pub in 1958, Gotti met the woman who would become his wife, Victoria DiGiorgio, who was half Italian and half Russian. They have 5 kids together. Gotti starts robbing truckloads from John F. Kennedy Airport with the help of his brother Gene and his friend Ruggiero. The Lucchese family, particularly the Paul Vario faction, controlled this region. Gangsters like Henry Hill and James Burke were a part of the latter group. He became acquaintances with Joseph Massino and the future head of the Bonanno family at this time. Aniello Della Croce, also known as Neil, the sub-boss of the Gambino family, is still Aniello Della Croce when Gotti first encounters him. With exaggerated tales of mafia activities involving the criminal gang Anastasia at the time, Della Croce enchanted the young Gotti. Employees of United Airlines recognized Gotti for cargo theft at the airport in February 1968. The FBI quickly detained him in connection with the case. 2 months later, Gotti was detained for stealing again while out on bail, this time in New Jersey for stealing a $50,000 package of cigarettes. Later that year, Gotti was given a 3-year jail term in Lewisburg after entering a guilty plea to stealing cargo from Northwest Airlines. In 1972, Gotti and Ruggiero are released on parole. They rejoin their former group at the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club, still working under Fatico's leadership. Gotti joins Team Bergen as head of underground betting and quickly establishes himself as a proficient hitman. Fatico was charged with making a usurious loan in 1972. Due to the interruption of initiations since 1957, Gotti has not yet received a formal invitation to join the mafia. But Fatico promotes him to active caporegime, a high position in the family. Gotti routinely makes strips to Della Croce's headquarters at the Ravenite Social Club, where the sub-chief oversees the team's operations as a result of his new position. Gotti and Della Croce are already acquainted. Both have comparable backgrounds. They have a fiery temper and make excellent actors. For the murder of Irish-American criminal James McBratney, Gotti received a prison term in a federal prison in 1973. Emmanuel Gambino, the nephew of Carlo Gambino, had been abducted and slain by the latter. Gotti's future career was helped by this deed. A federal investigation in 1983 charged 13 Gambino family members with narcotics trafficking. Both Angelo Ruggiero and Gene Gotti, the brother of John Gotti, were involved. Federal investigators had been bugging Ruggiero's house since 1980. They had videotaped him handling the family's day-to-day affairs, taking care of the narcotics, and showing contempt for Castellano. Ruggiero had cause for concern. Ruggiero would be killed if Castellano were found to be engaging in human trafficking in addition to breaking the family's anti-drug stance by trafficking drugs. The audio tapes and their written transcription were accessible to the defendants under federal law so they could use them to help build their defense. Castellano demanded to see the written records. Delacroce made every effort to keep them secret. Additionally, Delacroce was battling cancer. John Gotti stepped up to defend Ruggiero when he begged for assistance frantically. But Castellano persisted in insisting on seeing the transcripts. John Gotti understood he needed to move rapidly. Gotti needed to eliminate Castellano in order to seize control. Due to Castellano's poor reputation, he was able to persuade the Cosa Nostra board and commission members to allow him to murder Castellano and assume control of the Gambino family. 4 individuals who were not identified at the time shot Castellano in the street. Some American specialists on organized crime, like Jerry Capisi, believe they were John Carneglia, Vincent Artuso, Salvatore Scala, and Angelo Ruggiero, all of whom worked for John Gotti. By the time he assumes control of the Gambinos, Gotti is regarded as the American mafia's most powerful godfather and made the Gambinos a yearly revenue of $500 million. $10 million to $12 million is the estimated yearly income of John Gotti. He was arrested 3 times, but due to charges being dismissed or reduced to probation, he did not serve any jail time. At least one benefit of Gotti's media attention was that Romuald Pisic chose not to testify against him after being terrified by the publicization of his criminal actions and the pressure from the Gambino family. He admitted during his testimony at the trial in March 1986 that he could not recall who had attacked him. Gotti was exonerated in the case. Ruggiero was given a promotion to Capo Regime, and DeCicco was made underboss of his former team. A little later, John Favara, one of his neighbors, unexpectedly vanished after running over Gotti's 12-year-old son with his automobile. Gotti has been subject to FBI electronic surveillance ever since his conviction. Clubs and business facilities are being shut down one by one. Therefore, he hosts his gatherings in open spaces like shopping malls or in an apartment that he rents from a family member's mother above his club. He conveyed his orders to the clan members outside even though he was aware that he was being wiretapped. By initially installing microphones on street furniture like the phone booths he was near, the FBI will precisely halt him. The magnetic recordings, along with additional tapes also recorded in an apartment above his club, will be used as evidence by the FBI. He talks about his criminal actions, including a string of killings, on those tapes, which the prosecution will utilize against him. On December 11, 1990, Gotti, Gravano, Frank Lacasio, and Thomas Gambino were taken into custody by FBI agents and New York detectives who had stormed the club. The following day, Gotti was accused of committing 13 murders, as well as crimes like extortion, fraud, and tax evasion, and for the first time, the murder of Paul Castellano accusation. Magnetic tapes and numerous witness statements make up the overwhelming majority of the prosecution's evidence. Additionally, the prosecution promised to give Gravano protection under the Witness Protection Program in exchange for his testimony against his boss. After 13 hours of deliberation, the jury found Gotti guilty of all charges on April 2, 1992. In support of the defendant during the trial, court demonstrations were planned. Gotti was transported to Illinois' oldest prison in the country. He is put under the harshest regime once he is in prison. Gotti spends 23 hours per day in the cell. He goes on an hour-long daily walk alone in a closed room. He is entitled to 2 weekly baths, a radio, and a tiny television in his cell. Meals are delivered to him through the door slot. Gotti offered the Aryan Brotherhood $500,000 to kill Walter Johnson, an inmate who had attacked him and was mentally unstable while he was incarcerated. Gotti's proposal was accepted by the Aryan Brotherhood. Johnson was transferred to another block after the guards determined that he was in danger inside the facility. He was eventually moved to another facility where he was given release. Finally, Gotti died in 2002 at the age of 61 from throat cancer. And that's it for the video. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Bye.